Finally today, fall will be here before we know it, and so will fall calving. For some guidance, here's SUNUP's Curtis Hare with our OSU Extension beef cattle specialist, Dr. Paul Beck.
I don't know about you, but I can't believe it's already time to start thinking about fall weaning. But Paul, that time is almost here. So what are some things that producers need to consider as they get into fall weaning?
Well, weaning or even receiving, high-risk calves from a sale barn if you're a stocker operator can be extremely stressful. Just a little bit of pre-preparation, getting things ready ahead of time can really take care of the stress on you, your crew that's working them, and the calves that you're processing.
And I imagine one of the big things is just kind of the facilities, what you have working with on your area. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the first thing I do is we look at facilities, make sure our pens are back together. If we worked cows earlier in the summer, fixing the fences that they tore up, making sure the gates are all still swinging, and just taking care of those built-up weeds that may have grown through the summer. All those things can be tripping hazards or just make it harder to work the cattle through. And another thing that we don't think of, but that can really shut down the progress of weaning or working cattle, is coming up on some hornets or bumblebees. Mm-hmm. Everything shuts down once the first person gets stung. So go through, police those areas, and make sure that those hives are taken care of before you start, because there are always some that do come in and nest through the summer when you're not using your facilities.
So when it comes to things in regards to medicine too, I bet that's obviously pretty stressful when it comes to the calves.
Yeah, I always think of facilities, pharmaceuticals, feed, and equipment.
Yeah.
So facilities, is important. The other thing that can really shut you down and slow you down, is running out of medicine or not having the right medicine, having expired vaccines. We can really shut down progress if we have to send somebody into town. Mm-hmm. We're trying to get things done during the cool morning, and anything that delays our getting cattle worked and processed in a timely fashion gets us working into the heat of the day. Cattle start getting angry, crews start getting angry, and it's just really disruptive on the whole process.
And you mentioned feed. Talk a little bit about that. What are some considerations there?
Feed is really important, especially with high-stress calves, and when we wean calves off from the cow, if they're not familiar with the feeding facilities or milled feed. We can't just go get just a cheap sweet feed or something like that. Even though those are palatable, we need to get a designed receiving feed that is made for their nutrient requirements. When we wean calves or bring in high-stress calves from a sale barn, for instance, feed intake will be very low, or it can be, half as much as what we would normally expect. So the concentration of the nutrients in our receiving ration need to be higher than what we would normally look for from just a regular supplement. So, higher protein, 16% crude protein instead of a 12 for, like that standard 500-pound calf. Higher in minerals, because, our normal mineral pack in a supplement will be set for cattle that are consuming adequate feed. If the intakes are low, we want a higher quality and higher concentration of a lot of those important minerals and trace minerals in those diets. Clean, good quality, palatable hay is also extremely important. We need to get those calves back to eating as quickly as we can to really get them healthy and ready to respond to the vaccines and any other immune challenges that they will have. And one thing to consider with calves that we're weaning from cows, if they're unfamiliar with the water sources and the feed sources, they're going to have to go and search and find those feedstuffs and everything. So they may not even know what dry milled feed is. So have your feed bunks set perpendicular to the fence. So when they circle the fence and they're walking around looking for feed or a way out or whatever, they'll come to the feed bunk and stop there, and they may get a smell and taste of the feed right off. Another thing you can do is in the weeks leading up to weaning is get those calves prepared and used to those facilities. Bring the cow herd and the calves in and feed them in the facilities you're going to wean in, and that gets those calves familiar with where they're going to be, so it's not such a shock and not such a new environment whenever you bring them in and separate them from their dam.
Alrighty, thanks Paul. Dr. Paul Beck, OSU Extension Beef Cattle Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.